welcome to my channel. My name is Naima. Today I'll be answering questions related my life in Cairo, Egypt, and the reason that I moved here. So I hope you enjoy it, and I hope I answer all the questions that is needed.
We have a lot of questions about your life here in Cairo. And so I just want to start by asking where you're from, where you were raised.
I am originally from Somalia. I was born in Somalia. When I was 2, the war happened in my home country, and we flew out from the country. We came to Kenya, lived in Kenya, and when I was around 11, we came to the United States. So I was raised in the States. I went to elementary school until college at the United States.
Okay, tell us about your experience of raising a family in America.
The experience was good, but it was different too. Coming to America for the first time, everything was different. The culture was different, the language was different, the country was different. Living my first 10 to 11 years in Africa, it was a big culture shock to me when I first arrived. But then as the time goes, I started getting used to things, and everything started becoming normal to me. So overall, I would say it was normal.
Okay, so what do you think are the positive and negative issues of raising a family in America?
Well, in every country, it has positive and negative. In America, it's a good country, and I love it. That's where I was raised, and I'm very thankful to be part of it. It's a good country. You have a lot of opportunities. You have a lot of things to do, but the disadvantage is it's not a Muslim country. So raising a family, for me, my faith is really important to me, and raising a family in a non-Muslim country wasn't a choice for me.
Okay, so that leads us to this question of why did you come to Cairo? What gave you this idea?
I've always wanted to raise my kids in an Islamic country. Since I was young, it was something that I had it in my mind. It was a dream for me that I wanted to raise my children an Islamic society, country with an Islamic society. So the reason that I came here is because it was a Muslim country. Egypt, I've never came to Egypt before. It was, I just booked a ticket and came here. But then before I did that, I did a lot of research through the Muslim countries. First, Saudi Arabia, I didn't feel like it was a place for me to live because I wanted to have a freedom that I can do whatever I wanted to, go anywhere that I want to without being feared, or without being limited of what I can do. In Dubai, I looked up, but then for me it was too expensive. I couldn't afford it, the life in Dubai. In Somalia, the country that I was born, it's a good country. It's a place that I love. I wish I could just took my kids there and raise them there. But then the safety wise, it wasn't safe enough for me to raise my children there. So when I look all up, Egypt came to my choice because when I look Egypt, I was able to financially afford to live in Egypt. It was a safe country. For the safety wise, it's a safe country, and because of that is the reason why I chose Egypt.
Okay, so what were you expecting before you came to Cairo? What were your expectations about life in Cairo? What were your ideas in your mind?
Good question, because I had a lot of expectations in my mind before I came to Cairo. I was so excited bringing my children to a Muslim country. My first thing was like, okay, I'll hear the adhan, the prayer caller, calling the prayer. I will, I'll just take my children to the next madrasa nearby my house. within the year or less. I was expecting them to memorize Quran, to pick up the culture quickly and all that, but that's not the reality. In the reality, like the same as it was in America, your children will only learn what you teach them. The madrasas and everything is just a help. It's your job for you to do as much as you can so that your children can get as much education that you want them to get. So it wasn't that easy. So I was expecting to be here for like 2 years, but then now I'm realizing I'm going to be here for a long time.
And did Cairo meet your expectations?
It did not meet all my expectations, but it did. Overall, so far is so good.
Okay, so you've lived in America and now you're living in Cairo. What would you say is the difference of life in Cairo compared to America, especially with having a family and children?
This is a country that majority of the people are Muslims. So that's the difference. Like, you will not be, people will not look at you differently. You will not be worried about your children to be treated differently because they're Muslims and stuff. So as a Muslim family, I think that's the only difference. Like, this is an Islamic society here.
Okay. Tell us about so you were saying that your kids are learning a lot more about Islam in general and all that. Tell us about the education system here and what you're going through with your children in terms of their education.
The education in here is really good. They are both getting an Islamic education and a general education. So it's really good. On top of that, the kids are having a lot of tutors that come and help them after school. They will find a Quran tutor, math tutor, science tutor, Islamic studies tutor, any kind of tutor, and it's also affordable.
And are they readily available? Like, can you find these tutors easily?
Yes, you can find them easily.
Okay, so you've lived out here. How long have you lived in Cairo now?
For 1.5 years now.
And so what would you say to future mothers watching this video thinking about moving to a Muslim country?
I think it will be a best option. If you wanted to raise your children in an Islamic country, I think it's the best thing. And I honestly think that it's the best choice that I ever made. I left everything that I have. I left my job, my comfort life, just to raise my children in an Islamic country. No matter, what I had it, I felt like I was missing something. So I honestly think it's a good option to do it.
So no regrets?
No regrets at all.
Tell us about the safety issues of living in Cairo and having a family in Cairo. How safe is it?
In what I believe, in this world, there's not a single country that is 100% safe. In every country, it has ups and downs. So overall, the safety in Cairo is really good. I feel a lot more safer in here than I ever felt back in the States.
Okay. And so you're a mother here with your children. Tell us about how you can how new mothers or mothers in general can have access to support groups, or is it possible to meet new people, other mothers going through the same thing? Tell us about the support system here in Cairo. Do you have any groups or meetups or anything like that?
There are some groups in town. Usually, mothers who are new here, who are from overseas, they usually come together, ask each other for an advice, or if they need help with anything. There's always a support group that they can find it.
How often do the groups meet up?
Not very often, but then they do meet up, but not very often. Once in a while.
Okay. Now, you've been here for 1 year, so that must mean that you must have some sort of residence. Tell us about the process of doing visa or iqama.
The residence is the longest process in Egypt. Like getting, once you move here, you wanted to get it's important that you have to have residential visa or tourism visa, either one. If you don't have, you cannot be here illegally. You have to be here legally. So you have to go through the system to get that visa. And speaking of that, it takes a long process, but then the easiest way to get it done is by getting a lawyer. They will help you go through the process a lot quicker.
Okay. And how do people go about finding apartments? Like how were you able to find your apartment?
For me, when the way I found my apartment was, I called a sister that I knew back in the States that we used to go to the same masjid. At the time she was living here, but now she's back in the States. I called her, I sent her the money, and she rented the place for me. So once I get into my apartment, it was all furnished. It has everything in it. I stayed there, and then from there I started looking for a different apartment.
Tell us about the food, the quality of food here, and the kind of restaurants and supermarkets. Can you get everything that you can get in America? Can you find everything that you saw in America in Egypt as well? What's the food like in Cairo?
The food in Cairo is good. You can find everything that was in the States. Everything that was in the States is in here. It's easy to find it, and it's a lot cheaper. The money wise is a lot cheaper. Yes.
Tell us about the general environment and the weather. How is it being here? Like the environment, the weather, the quality of the air, rubbish, everything like that.
Well, good question. Speaking of the weather, it has winter season and a summer season. The summer season, Cairo, it's really hot. When I came here in June 2017, it was extremely hot. Like I felt like, I was sweating. It was just too hot. And then a few months later, when it, like December, January, it becomes really cold. Like you need a blanket, you need a sweater, all that. So the weather is like that. But then it also, one thing that I seen it in here is the pollution is not good. Most of the people that lives in here, they are smokers. Anywhere that you go, you'll see people smoking around you, and that is not something that I appreciated. So that can give you sick. Sometimes I feel like I'm not even getting a clean air because of that smoke, because everyone around you is smoking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And are all the neighborhoods clean and very nice looking, or are the neighborhoods different?
It depends which neighborhood that you live. The neighborhood that I live right now, it's not too clean, but there's a lot worse neighborhoods than mine. But then there's other neighborhoods that when you go, it's extremely clean, that they will not even let a single trash on the ground.
Okay. And are there a lot of Somalis in your neighborhood?
Yes, there is.
So to wrap up this interview, we've learned so much about your life in Cairo, the advice that you have for new mothers, and it sounds like you are getting a lot out of Cairo that you want. Just to wrap up, what are your future plans living in Cairo now that you're here?
My plan is to live in Cairo for a long time. I can't say the exact years, but I want to be here for a long time. But at the same time, during the summer times or break times, I'm willing to go out of the country to see different countries and do some traveling.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time. I hope that the viewers have learned so much.
Thank you for asking me all those questions. I appreciate it.
Will you be doing more videos about Cairo in the future?
Inshallah.
What kind of videos are you thinking for your future viewers who are thinking of moving to Cairo?
Life in Cairo and vlogs, general vlogs in Cairo, and things to do, places to go, where things to do with the children, the schools, about schools, about madrasas, and all that.
Fantastic. Inshallah. I know I'll be watching your YouTube channel, and I will be subscribing to learn more about this dude. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave comments in the below.